Howdy folks, we're looking at Edge Magazine issue 19, which featured Apple on the cover, and we're going to continue with the review section. And the first game is Descent, a truly 3D game for the computer, even though it looked a bit like Doom at the time. And in this game you can fly in all directions. And Edge says that it's a technical marvel, but you probably won't play it that long. Remember, Doom had a whole culture online for extra maps and all that, and Descent just wasn't different enough to capitalize on that whole culture. So people would still be preferring to play Doom than this game. Edge gave it an 8 for the PC. Now there's Victory Goal, a soccer game for the Saturn, released by Sega. And I don't think there's anything really noteworthy to mention about this game. But it got a 6. So, Dark Forces for the PC, getting an advertisement. Hey, Return Fire. Now this is a fun game. Especially fun when if you get to play against somebody else behind the same screen. You have all these different vehicles and you're trying to infiltrate the base of your opponent. All in real time. Very strategic. And it's for the 3DO. And it gets an 8. One of the 3DO classics. Seems to me like 3DO has a lot of good games by now. But the PlayStation has been released. I think this game made it to the PlayStation 2. Hey, here's Dark Forces. So it's a lot like Doom, but with Star Wars aesthetics. The usual music, all kinds of enemies, quite a lot of different weapons. So, yeah, it gets a 7 out of 10. Not very original, but it plays well. For the PC. For the PlayStation, you had Kiliak the Blood, one of the first PlayStation games, and this is a very dull corridor shooter. Yeah, it's something like Wolf 3D, but then slow. And there's no other way to describe it for myself. It doesn't look very nice either. All the levels look dreary. And Edge gives it a 6, and it's quite forgettable, unfortunately. So better 3D shooting games for the PlayStation 2. Much later you would have Quake 2, an excellent conversion, and probably the best. Kiliak the Blood, though, isn't worth your time. Raiden Project, which I guess is Raiden 1 and 2, or only 2, I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter because you're not going to play this anyway. So they put Raiden on the PlayStation 1, and Edge gives it a 6 because, yeah, I guess it's very playable. But come on, this game's from 1990 or something. Still getting 2 pages. Weird. Sabre Sled, only getting a 4. Why? Because it's a lot of fun. But apparently the PlayStation 1 couldn't handle the multiplayer very well. I mean, there is split screen. So this is still better than Kiliak the Blood if you ask me. I should give this game another chance. I should look this game up because I've never seen it in action on the PlayStation. Would have been great if it was like the arcade. But Edge says it's not. And as a single player game, it's just too dull. There's a retro view of The Secret of Monkey Island, one of the best, if not best, click and carry adventure games. And although I prefer the original Maniac Mansion, lots of fun. You can't die. Hilarious characters. So yeah, give it a shot. Go around, make some enemies and friends with pirates. From 1990. And the best part is the duels, where you fight with your sword and you win by outwitting your opponent by saying clever things. If I had one of those clever back and forths on hand, I would have said one now. Leggo looking for people, how about that? Rare with a really cool advertisement. Who are they again? Team 17. I don't know. For some reason, I think they're interesting, but I don't know why. Jaguar will have coming in 1995 virtual reality. Every month. Okay, so here's Tom Kalinske, and as you can see, he by the building, he works for Sega in the United States. So, yeah. Of course, he's very positive about Sega's future, even though they have 6 different consoles at the moment to support the Sega CD, the 32X, the 32X CD, the Saturn, the Game Gear, and I guess another one. I can't come up with it. Soon enough, they would have the Nomad too. So, yeah, they're talking about how big the US market is and how the 32X will be bigger than the PlayStation because of all the Genesis users. He even says Genesis will be bigger than Nintendo in 1995. Better than Super Nintendo, I mean. But I don't think that was the case either. So he's optimistic about the future. Everything will go down the drains, of course. By 1998, the only focus they would have would be the Dreamcast. Yeah, they spread themselves too thin. And Q&A. And on to the last page. So here we have next issue, and it's not very clear what it's about. We see a chip made by Sony, presumably for the PlayStation 1. And, well, it'll be PlayStation next month then. Edge getting more and more artsy with their inside covers. Is that it? Wasn't there something interesting in this interview? Well, he talks about the 3DO being a failure. No. So let's go to the back. And what else did you expect on the back cover? The 6 primary colors, at least you know what I mean. So that was Edge Magazine 19, April 1995. And Apple would adorn the cover of Edge Magazine 3 times. This is the first time with their Power PC. I wonder what's up with the next time, but eventually Apple would have the iStore, where you can buy games for your iPad and your iPhone, and would end up becoming one of the biggest players in the video game industry. But at the time, just a company making computers for at home. Okay, that was Edge Magazine number 19. See you at number 20.